All right, how's everybody doing? Let's finish up with Daniel 11. I did have one verse that goes into Daniel 12, but you remember I do one column at a time on my dad's old King James. But I'm going to exnay that so I can just start Daniel 12 from scratch because it's completely different. And Daniel 12:2 is a very important Bible verse, considering what happens when we die. So I want the first verse there. Let's continue 40 through 45, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Every verse is there. Let's read it. And at the time of the end, the king of the south will attack the king of the north. The king of the north will storm out with chariots and charioteers and a vast navy, and he will invade various lands and sweep through them like a flood. He will enter the glorious land of Israel, and many nations will fall, but Moab, Edom, and the best part of Ammon will escape. He will conquer many countries, and even Egypt will not escape. He will gain control over the gold and the silver and the treasures of Egypt, and the Libyans and Ethiopians will be his servants. But then news from the east and the north will alarm him, and he will set out in great anger to destroy and obliterate many. He will stop between the glorious holy mountain of the sea and will pitch his royal tents. While he is there, his time will suddenly run out and no one will help him. And yeah, that's the end of that chapter. Why does it say 45 and it ends at 44? Oh, because the New Living doesn't give us verse 45. How do you like that? Remember I counted them? Thought I counted them. I use the New Living for understanding, but when things don't line up, we always go back to the King James. And things into King James that don't make sense, we have to take it to the original Greek. Well, there's verse 45 here. What did I do wrong? Oh, verse 45 is right there. What an idiot. Sorry, I wasted your time with that. The New Living, though, does leave out certain verses throughout the Bible. Uh, why does the New Living Translation leave out certain verses that the King James does not? Why are the newer translations of the Bible missing verses? Remember, we did a study one day. The chances of the fact that you would have also been listening to that Bible study, because I know you can't catch them all. And for y'all that do, watch these in order on the playlist so you don't miss a one, so you can really, get into the deep learning of it. Then y'all do remember where the New Living just didn't have a verse. And for some reason, see online, King James are separated verse by verse. And in New Living, you know, there's one verse and then there's another verse. In other words, they break them up like a paragraph. So I just went. I was out in the heat all day, folks. Oh, it's so hot here in Florida. I'm a PE coach, so my brain's fried. Apparently, sorry about that. So we finished it, and tomorrow we will start Daniel 12. Let's continue on in one of my favorite chapters in all of the Gospels, John 5. And a certain man was there which had infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him lie, and he knew that he had been now a long time in that case, he said unto him, Wilt thou be made whole? The impotent man answered and said, Sir, I have no man. When the water is troubled, uh-oh. I knew we read this earlier. It's John 15, my favorite. See, I've been out in the heat too long today. And let me make sure. Yes, 5 through 15. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered. And men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. Are they alive? Nope. They are dead. And how do you know this? When you go to Revelation 20, which is all about judgment. And I saw thrones, and they that sat on him, and judgment was given unto them. The rest of the dead goats did not live again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. It talks about how the second death has no power. You see, the sheep are born twice but die once. And the goats are born once and die twice. Blessed and holy is he that have part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power. See, that's a beautiful thing, that you only die once. Now, we all do not look forward to our death, especially if it's painful, right? People that die in their sleep, they went to bed, they died in their bed. That's a pretty, and then there's those horrific car accidents where they were just obliterated instantaneously, and it just gives you a sick feeling, and you feel horrible. And if it's somebody in your family and you think about their body being torn and ripped to shreds like that, an arm here, a head there, a leg there. But folks, I got to tell you, that's a pretty cool way to go. It's a mess on the interstate, and it's horrific for the family members. It just haunts them. It just haunts them. And I totally get that. Totally get that. But the person themselves, when you compare them to, like my mom, who went through that whole cancer deal, and you morph into the hospice deal, and then you look back at that car accident person and ask yourself, which way would you want to go? And you would say, I'd take the car accident. Do you really care what you look like after you're dead? Do you really care that in that casket that you've got that you just look great? People go, boy, they did a great job with them. Nah, you don't care about that. So, and people that die those long illnesses, that's tough. That's a tough look too after you're dead. So you get the idea. So none of us look forward to death, but the goats die twice. Do you want to know how they die a second time? They are let out. Satan is let out, and he deceives the nations again. Well, who's he deceiving? Is he deceiving God's sheep? Nope. That wouldn't make any sense. These people have already, they're escaping the second death. They were part of the first resurrection. Do you think they're being deceived by Satan? After being risen from the dead and getting their glorified body, do you think Satan's, no, who's he deceiving? The fallen angels and every single human that has ever lived, or fallen angel human hybrid. You want to know how many that is? The number of whom is the sand of the sea. they surround Israel. They went up on the breadth of the earth. They surround earth, the circle of the earth. You don't live on a spinning ball, folks. And encompass the camp of the saints and the beloved city, which has been made new again, because it was Sodom and Egypt in Revelation 11:8. And how do they die? What's that second death? And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. Just like that. There's your second death. That's your judgment. And notice that the devil, he don't get that. The devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire of brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are. And they shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Why is that? That's because that's where the fallen angels go. The fallen angels go straight to the lake of fire. They do not get hell. They do not get death. What is hell? It's the grave. The lake of fire is where the fire is. Notice it says death and hell delivered up the dead. They're dead. When did they die? And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. When you're dead, you're dead. When you're in the grave, you're in the grave. That's what hell is. It's death and the grave. And you have to do a lot of research on that. You're not alive anymore. You're dead. Why didn't Satan get that? If it's eternal torment, because it's separate. The devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are. The beast and the false prophet are now fallen angel. The bodies might be human, but they're possessed. It's the fallen angels. That's why the only other place you see this tormented day and night forever and ever, and people think that's what happens to all humans. Nah. It's only for the fallen angels. The only other place you see it. And those that took the mark of the beast will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Revelation. I think it's 14. Yep. Because I just looked this up. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever. See, it's torment. Torment. And they have no rest day or night. You think God would do that to humans that had no free will to choose him whatsoever? Who worship the beast in his image, and whoever receiveth the mark of his name. Folks, they're going to be uploading the fallen ones into their bodies. And their bodies are going to become an avatar. And we go over that many times concerning Daniel 2:43. And they shall mingle themselves with the seed of man, the iron mixing with clay. The iron is the machine, the clay is the human. They will mingle themselves with the seed of men. That's the final kingdom. It's partly iron and partly clay. And it says, and they do not cleave to one another, just like iron. So the human host will die off, and the fallen angel will be what will be inhabiting that human body. Don't you remember when Jesus cast out the demon out of that man and threw them into the swine? What happened? The demon was inside of a human, and then it went into the swine. The demons are going to be inside the humans. Every human being will be possessed, but to the point to where the human will die at some point. And it is the fallen angels that get that torment forever. Humans can't live forever, folks. Only sheep do. Like Jesus said, fear him that can destroy both body and soul in hell. Where's hell? I thought it was a lake of fire. No. Don't fear them that can kill the body but not harm your soul. Fear him, me. He's saying me. Fear me that can destroy, not kill, destroy both body and soul in the grave, in hell. That's what hell is. Hell is the grave. All right. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and by the way, it's like a cremation process. You know how you're dead and then you go get cremated, but you're already dead, but you're going through the fire? It's exactly. You're dead, but your dead body is going to go into the lake of fire. And the whole process is called your second death. But when did they die? When they encompassed the camp of the saints and the fire came down and devoured them. Didn't torture them. They weren't sitting there screaming. There's nothing in there about their torment. And you're like, well, what about Lazarus and the rich man? Parable. It's a parable. A parable is not an actual story. It's an earthly story told in a heavenly way, or a heavenly story told in an earthly way. A parable is an earthly story told in a heavenly way. A parable is a heavenly story told in an earthly way. Earthly story with heavenly meaning. Thank you. Earthly story told with heavenly meaning. Okay. It's an earthly story, the rich man and Lazarus. What's the heavenly meaning? Do you remember the part about how there's a great gulf and you cannot pass from one place to the other? And just to show you there's no free will, God said, no, I'm not going to go back and tell your, or allow you to tell your relatives, because they're not going to understand you anyway. They're not going to hear the truth because they're goats. Goats are born goats. Sheep are born lost. Sheep get the call. So that great gulf where you can't pass to and from, to and fro, as they say. Remember that part about, and they went up on the breadth of the earth and encompassed the camp of the saints in the beloved city. And that you cannot, those people up there on the breadth, they can't pass. They're going to see you loved by Jesus, and you're going to see them unloved by Jesus. And that's where the weeping and gnashing of teeth come in. And that's why God's got to wipe away all your tears, because you're going to see everybody, and they're going to see you. And you might be the only sheep they know. Many probably never met a sheep. When you see the prophets weeping and gnashing, When you see the prophets weeping and gnashing your teeth. I butchered that verse, by the way, but I just wanted to bring it up. Let me share the idea with you. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. When? Well, when you're encompassing the camp of the saints. How do you know? It says, when you shall see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, and you yourselves thrust out. You're going to be weeping and gnashing your teeth if you're a goat. Don't you see how it all fits? Whole thing's got to fit. Whole Bible's got to fit. Every verse has got to fit. Every verse has to fit. It's a puzzle. Holy Spirit puts the puzzle together for you. Am I ever going to get on with this? If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Again, go back to 2 or 3 days ago. It's not a magic genie Bible verse. It's not what it means. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. And we just talked about this yesterday and the day before. It's all one big circle. And no, we are not God, but we are of God, because the Holy Spirit dwells in you, the inner man, outer man. We went through that 2 or 3 days ago. You got to watch every one of my, if you miss one, go back and watch it. They're all on my playlist. Don't click videos at this website. Click playlist. Click Daniel Second Study and watch them in order. Click playlist, Second Daniel Study. We're at 49 strong right now, and watch them. What was the other Daniel? The other Daniel, it says, was 46. Why is this one 49? Oh, I don't know, sir. I would always go with my second Daniel Bible study over the first one, because I learn as I go. And thank you very much. If you keep my commandments, and you will, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept the Father's commandments and abide in his love. All these things were just said in chapter 13 or 14. We just went over all of this. So let's repeat it again. So you got to really take it to heart. But what I'm saying is, we taught on it. These things I have spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, that your joy might be full. This is my commandment. Notice all the commandments. Throughout the Bible, there's nothing but commandments from Jesus. They don't always say the word commandment. There's just things where he says things, but it's a command just the same. That ye love one another as I have loved you. It's not just an emotional love. It is telling the truth. Jesus is the truth. He gave the truth. That's what you do. Agape is keeping the commandments of a king, of a kingdom. And keeping those commandments of a king, they were not grievous commands. They were pretty simple when you lived in a kingdom back in the old days. And that's what Jesus is saying. What's that Bible verse? My burden is light, but my yoke is easy. My burden is light, and my yoke is easy. I forget how it goes.
According to Interact Zion, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart, and you will find rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
My yoke is easy and my burden is light. people were like, I can't stop getting drunk, or I can't stop fornicating. I can't stop having unmarried sex. I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't. You can when you get the call. If you're a sheep, you can. Goats can't. Lost sheep can't, but goats can. I mean, excuse me, goats can't. Sheep can stop. Goats can't stop. So they look at these things and they'll go, I don't need to quit having sex. His burden is light and his yoke is easy. And stop having sex would just be too difficult for me. And Jesus knows I love me, he knows my heart, and his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And so we're not saved by our works. So I can keep on fornicating. And I'll I get drunk every once in a while. No. 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 If I haven't had intercourse, in over 8.5 years, and any type of sex since 2017, which is, yeah. So that's when the Lord started showing me the truth about election and predestination. It just happens, and it happens over time. It doesn't just happen in one day. So please don't think that's ever what I'm saying. But I think that's why the Lord has given me a lot of truth, because he was going to like really remove me out of the world. So that's how he was going to, he's like, look, I'm going to give you a lot of stuff. Before I do that, I got to clean up your act because you're representing. So, like, okay. Gee, life sure was a lot more fun. But no, over time, you understand. You understand. It's placed in your heart to be good with your situation. So no complaints. Greater love have no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Ye are my friends, if ye do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what the Lord doeth. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. Again, the back and forth. God is in sheep. The sheep are of God. He knew them before the foundation of the world. They're born into this world lost. Bah! Dumb as a box of rocks. No dumber animal than a sheep. Cannot function without a shepherd. Coincidence? All right, love you very much. Ask questions.